Do you know why they call it the baby boomer generation?
Isn't it because of the war and like they came back from the war and everyone had a bunch of babies?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hey Vivian.
Hey Chelsea.
Hey, we're back again. I just want to thank everyone who's been listening to each of our episodes. We really appreciate it. You know, if you're enjoying this, please subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube and you have a suggestion, something that you want us to talk about, leave it in the comments section because we'll definitely look at that and we'll make sure to talk about things that you guys want to hear about.
Absolutely. That's what we're here to do.
Okay, so today's topic is about traditional marketing. So I want to start off by saying, agree or disagree, print is dead.
Disagree.
I do too.
All right.
Yeah. I really hate that phrase.
And y'all don't come for us, please, in the comments.
Yeah,
hear us out first.
Wait a second. Print is not dead. I would say print is transformed.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think your wording on that, the word selection is 100% just truthful because it's not, I think what some people think about print is the old school print when really there's like a print 2.0 out there, right?
Exactly. And I feel like as for small businesses, if you have this mindset like print is dead, it's not even worth it, then you could really be limiting your marketing. I actually worked for a company and we had a great opportunity to work with a local newspaper. And when I tried to bring it up because I had to get it approved first, I was just told flat out, print is dead. We're not interested. And I feel like we really missed out on a great opportunity there.
Yeah. What catches my attention when you share something like that is across the board, if you have an advertising opportunity or a marketing opportunity and you just flat out don't even look at it because you say, I don't believe in that. I know print is dead. I know commercials don't work. You're doing a disservice to yourself because as quickly as technology is changing these days and as quickly as these companies are having to modify the offerings they're giving to people, you may be missing out, like you said, on really great opportunities just because, you know, and who knows how long, in this particular example, that person has, you know, how long has it been since they've looked at print opportunities? It, you know, it may have been 5 years and they may just not be in the know about what print opportunities look like these days.
Exactly.
So stemming from that, let's talk about what print opportunities actually are these days. So everyone, you know, if you're in the mindset and you say print opportunities are dead, you are probably still thinking about the old school throwing a newspaper on the porch, having to go out to the newspaper and retrieve it.
Yeah.
But y'all, that's not what newspapers are doing these days. The news cycle has changed. Just like we are on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, getting our information on the daily, these news sources are having to pump out so much more news stories.
Yeah.
And which is, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with that aspect of it because I do think that's what makes for sloppy reporting, right? Because they have to stay relevant
and just pump out the content
hour to hour. So it's not even like, hey, we just need enough content to send the paper to print tonight so that's available tomorrow morning. Now it's we have to have stories available on the hour for people to read.
We gotta stay top of mind.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I completely agree. Some of the news stories out there they're not news. And we're not trying to hate on newspapers and news companies. We're just trying to make a point that print isn't dead. They've changed and transformed the way that they stay relevant now.
Absolutely, because they've had to, just like every other business has had to. So, for example, what a print advertising contract may look like these days is, yes, you get a print ad, let's say a half-page ad in their, weekly newspaper, but it will also include digital advertising on their digital newspaper. It can also include email marketing from their subscriber base. So think about it. They now have even more data that they can leverage to help you get your business out there. Or some of them were even doing geofencing. And the one thing that people don't realize is a lot of these companies have also gotten into, or a lot of the print companies have gotten into events.
Yes.
Okay. So they're putting on events. I know that our local newspaper here actually puts on a Christmas event where they invite families and they do like a little breakfast. And so as a advertiser, I have the opportunity to actually go out and participate in that event and get a table and put my business in front of those families.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, print isn't dead. And I really think this comes back to traditional marketing, which is our topic today. Is it still relevant? It is. It still is. And I think small businesses and businesses just in general try to focus on newer and shinier ways of advertising because new equals better, right?
So you think.
But that's not necessarily true.
So here's the funny part about this paradigm shift is, according to the Harvard Business Review, they say that it was a article that they printed back in 2022, around like August of 2022. They say that traditional advertising is making a comeback. Okay, but so listen to why though. This is the crazy part is because everyone is so focused on digital advertising and there has gotten to be such a, I think just a competitive market with that, it has created this noise for consumers to where people are just getting annoyed, right? So when they play a video online, they get annoyed that the video will actually play a commercial before their actual video kicks in. And so it's created this type of noise where it's becoming harder and harder for advertisers to cut through that on the digital aspect. So now traditional advertising has not only gotten more popular, but coupled with some of these new age things like QR codes, it can actually amplify what you're doing in the traditional advertising. And the example they were talking about is, let's say, postcards. Everyone's like, whatever, I don't read postcards. I throw them away whenever I get them in the mailbox. But when you attach a QR code to it and it allows someone to scan it and then go to a landing page that talks about your product, service, whatever your offering is, this is trackable data. And so what marketers and what businesses are finding out is I can actually track my results way better than I could before we had the QR codes. And so now I know exactly how many leads I'm getting from this postcard, which then tells them, hey, it's actually working and it's working pretty well.
Yes, and I actually have something about postcards in my notes. So American Express actually has a survey report that they put out every year. It's 5 insights from shoppers on what they want from small businesses. And in that report, they have a great graph. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll actually insert it in this video. If you're not, you can actually go to our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and we actually posted about this graph the other day. But it's about the types of advertising and marketing that consumers find the most appealing. Y'all, social media was number 3.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah,
I would have thought it would at least be number 2.
No, it was number 3. And number 1, coming back to postcards, was actually postcards.
Yeah.
So people prefer getting direct mail.
Yeah. And so talking about direct mail and traditional advertising, people think, okay, well, you don't have as much capability in direct mail to hone in on who you want to receive these pieces in their mailbox, but that's not the case.
That is not the case. You totally can.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is bonus tip if you haven't run a direct mail campaign in a while because you think you can't get granular on who you can target, that's not the case. Reach out to the printer that you're using and ask them, say, hey, what types of reports can you pull to help me drill down on specifics of who's going to receive this postcard? Because I can tell you right now, you can do it by household income. You could do it by level of education. You can actually do it by new residents, people that have just moved in within the last 3 months into their home. You can target these people specifically. So it may be that you're just not super familiar with what's available. Now, is the printer going to necessarily tell you that? Not really, because they're just going to go based off of your instruction, right? Send it to these people in this area. But you can drill down. And so if you haven't done direct mail because you're thinking I can't drill down, think again.
Absolutely. And honestly, if you get real targeted with your direct mail, you're not necessarily going to spend a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Like it's worth it, obviously. And so coming back to that graph, number 4, guess what number 4 was?
Print.
Traditional TV marketing, advertising. So TV commercials.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Especially, I wonder how they came up with that, considering that now we're doing like streaming and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So maybe their criteria for what they're deeming traditional television advertising may not be the traditional that we're thinking of.
And it could be. I didn't do the survey. I didn't do the...
Well, so here's the thing, kind of tapping into that part of it. All right, so just like back in the day, if you wanted to advertise with a local news station, right, you would buy 30-second commercials on their television programming for, let's say, the 5 o'clock news. Yeah. Okay, they would be able to give you the numbers for that. Now, what they're doing is they've morphed to create more digital opportunities. So if I'm an advertiser now for traditional television advertising with that news station, they will actually, in the package, give me clips on their streaming. Okay, so, and what that means is if someone's watching it on Facebook, I get my logo on it, or I get a smaller, clip size or whatever. But so they have to incorporate that stuff because that's the way everything is moving towards. So you guys, our main and biggest point here is if you are saying traditional advertising is dead and therefore I am not even going to entertain the thought of advertising there, go back and just see what they offer now.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, don't limit yourself. I mean, we're not saying a specific type of marketing is right or wrong. It really depends on the goal of your campaign, what you're trying to do, how you're trying to go about it. You just really need to take the time and really learn and look at what you want to do and what type of advertising or marketing is going to be best suited for that.
And let's not forget that on the other side of that equation is your customer or your potential customer.
Absolutely.
There are real people behind that. And one of the things I want to bring up is, interestingly enough, do you know why they call it the baby boomer generation?
Isn't it because of the war and they came back from the war and everyone had a bunch of babies?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So there was a boom in the population, but I think a lot of people forget that. And the reason I bring that up is baby boomers make up a big part of the population. And so you cannot forget the way people consume information.
Absolutely. I mean, that really should be your number one priority is who is my target audience, who is my target market, and how do they like being advertised to?
Yes. What are they reading? Where are they looking for their information? How can I capture their attention? I looked this up, there are 74 million baby boomers in the United States. 74 million. So all I say to you is if you are going to write off a particular type of advertising just because you think it's not the newest and shiniest thing, go back and see who your target audience is. Now, surprisingly, a lot of the baby boomers are doing a lot of the technology stuff. So they are consuming a lot of the newer, digital advertising and all that. Mm-hmm. But if you're not going back and saying, how do the majority of people in that particular demographic, who is my demographic, Absolutely. Is consuming information, then you're really missing the mark here. And I'd almost argue that digital advertising has just gotten so competitive that you're not seeing the same return on investment as you once were when it was first coming out, because a lot of people didn't know about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Digital clutter.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
There's just too much. And at this point, I mean, I know my generation, not necessarily my generation, but like the people that I associate with don't even look at digital ads. Yeah. You automatically recognize them. You just scroll right past them. And I'm not saying don't do digital ads because no one's paying attention to them. I'm saying, again, understanding who your audience is and seeing what's the best way to reach them. Maybe they are on social media or something like that, but maybe they're so tired of digital ads, so you want to go about it a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. This is kind of a little, it relates. It's not off topic, but when you're scrolling through Facebook or, on a news site and it pulls up an article, and at the top of the article, up in the left-hand corner, it'll say sponsored content.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people know that people pay for that.
Yes.
And so that's another way that the print advertising world has kind of changed too. So now, as a business, when my newspaper is reaching out to me for advertising opportunities, they're saying, hey, another opportunity you have is for you to work with our writers to come up with an article that's considered sponsored content, but it looks like a news story. Okay. And I think people like us, who maybe we deal with it day to day, and we're the ones that are actually putting sponsored content out there too. We know whenever we're scrolling through something that if we see sponsored content, we're like, it's an ad in a different format.
Absolutely.
Right? An ad that's got a little more polish to it because it looks like a news story, but it's not. So, and that's probably for another day we could get into that stuff.
Well, and this might be a little bit off topic too, but it kind of relates. I think as small businesses, you have an advantage because people actually do want to see your personality, because you are smaller and they have a connection to you because you're like a family business. They like that. When bigger brands, when bigger companies try to be relatable, at least for Gen Z, I know it makes them mad. Right. There's no connection because it feels very fake. But I feel like for small businesses, it doesn't feel fake. It feels genuine.
So you're saying if like a small business were to do like a sponsored content piece, it feels a little more genuine because
yes, because I'm trying more to say like when I see a small business share a meme, it's funny. When I see a big corporation share a meme, it's cringy.
Yeah.
Because for a small business, like I know there's an actual person behind it.
Right.
But for a large corporation, I know they have a huge team of marketing people and someone's just telling them connect with this generation, but it's harder to do.
Right.
And I just feel like as a small business, you might not recognize that you have that advantage, but you definitely do. It is going to be easier for people to trust you.
Do you have a list of emails that you have collected from past buyers that is just sitting there getting dusty?
Are you looking for a way to build a long-term relationship with people so that your small business will stay top of mind for them? Want to increase your repeat sales? For every dollar spent on email marketing, businesses receive an average of a $42 return on their investment. And with an ROI like that, can you really afford to continue to let that email list sit there and just collect dust?
Joining our Nothing But Emails monthly membership program means that you can sit back and reap the rewards of sending out monthly or bi-monthly communication while we craft the email and send it out on your behalf.
For less than $100 a month, you can capitalize on this. Start today by visiting www.theseasonmarketer.com/services. All right, so let's get back to the practical tips though.
Sure.
Since we're telling you that traditional advertising is not dead and it may be worth a consideration, what are 3 tips that we can give to small business owners to evaluate any opportunities that arise for advertising or marketing?
Well, I'm going to give you 2 then. Be diverse, be decisive. So don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Don't only focus on newspaper advertising or social media advertising. You want to diversify, make sure you're doing multiple things. And then be decisive, when you're picking what strategies, what advertising you want to go with, make sure you are making an educated decision. Really do your research and know that you're making, the best decision with your money.
Okay, so I'm going to add on to those 2 that you just said, notes. Okay, be diverse part of it. Chelsea's completely right because, for one, I don't know if y'all know this, it takes about 7 to 9 touch points for someone to actually buy your product and service this day and age. And so what that means is if you've invested all of your money in, let's say, digital advertising, you're going to miss people because then you're basically saying all of my touch points are done through digital advertising, right? Instead of kind of just divvying that up and amplifying it to like, hey, I'm going to include some print, I'm going to include some digital, I'm going to include some television, radio, whatever you guys are deciding on. You're limiting.
Exactly. And touch points are just like interaction, where they see you, where you interact with them.
So what that kind of leads into is basically the main thought behind that is if I see one ad pop up on my screen for your business, that's not enough to make me buy. The typical consumer, it's going to take 7 of those touch points, whether it be me seeing somebody at an event that represents your business, me seeing an ad come across my screen, me driving down the road and seeing a billboard with your business name on it. It takes 7 touch points to get me to move and to take action. And so to Chelsea's point, if you're investing or you're putting all your eggs in one basket, you're making it even more difficult for your business to get in front of them those 7 times. And as far as the being decisive and aware about the particular advertising that you're selecting, this is going to sound a little weird, but I was just talking to a friend of mine who they're actually launching a spa in the area. I do advertising with a particular newspaper here in town. We have a rep that we've had for many, many years who is fabulous, okay? Like, she comes to the table with ideas, and she's like, I know your business. Here are some of the new offerings where we could pull data that's going to help you to get in front of the people you want to get in front of. Fabulous. She does a lot of the work, and she brings the opportunity. She knows what's going to work and what's not going to work for our business. Well, my girlfriend is actually talking to a different rep within the same company, and she's not getting the same opportunities placed in front of her and it can be because the rep is new, and it can be because the rep is unfamiliar with, let's say, the spa business, and it can be because maybe she just doesn't know all the offerings that the company has. But my point in bringing that up is that sometimes if you write something off, let's say I'm writing off print advertising altogether because I don't think it offers me value, it can be because you do not have a rep that's putting in front of you all of the opportunities. And so that's just a little caveat. If you feel like you are working with somebody from the advertising perspective who is not understanding your business and perhaps just isn't giving you the information that you want, don't be afraid to ask for a new rep. Like, y'all, that's the very basic thing that you guys can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, that's another reason why, if you're looking at these opportunities, don't write anything off and say, I'm never going to do print advertising again, or I'm never going to do commercials again, because things change, people change within that business. And then also it could just be that you got someone that wasn't really invested in trying to make your advertising work for you.
Absolutely. Just like you wouldn't want someone to write off your small business because of one bad experience, don't write off a form of marketing because of one bad experience.
Yeah. And be sure that doesn't mean that you can't put stuff in place to where you say, you know, the next rep that you talk to, if you want to revisit, let's say you haven't visited, you know, if you're thinking about doing television advertising, let's say you haven't visited that in a couple years, and the last time you did, you quit advertising because you had a bad experience, you can 100%, and I recommend that you go in there, not guns a-blazing, but you go in there and you just straight up tell them and say, look, the reason I quit advertising through this channel is because of X, Y, and Z. Here were my issues. You guys did not give me the rates I wanted, or you guys did not provide me reports on a consistent basis so that I was comfortable knowing that my advertising was working. All of this, you have a little bit of control over that because you can communicate and tell them where the gaps were, right? And so then that way everyone enters into a potential new relationship understanding what you're wanting and what you're needing in order to continue to invest those type of marketing dollars.
Absolutely.
The third one I did want to tack on was ROI, being sure in ROI, just a fancy term, return on investment. It basically is just y'all just being sure that you're making sure your advertising is working for you and is actually bringing money in. I cannot tell you how many people will spend $1,000 a month on something that is bringing no value to them and bringing them no new customers or no existing customers to their table, right? So, but the only way you're going to know that is if you put the data in place at the beginning. How am I going to track that the print advertising is working? How am I going to track that, you know, X, Y, and Z?
And that, again, it's so important to figure that out before you actually start the advertising, because you might decide, maybe you didn't set it up at the beginning and your ad is going on and you're like, oh, wait, actually, I want to see if I'm getting a return on investment. Did you set it up or not? Because if you didn't set it up, then that's it. You're not going to be able to get that data.
Now, if any of you out there are listening and you're like, oh man, like I haven't set up a way to actually track what's going on. And that's the hardest part of marketing, y'all, is the tracking part of it. Because, you know, how do you track that a billboard's working for you? Like, how do you, you know, so you have to get creative with the ways that you're tracking this information and the value that it's bringing to your business. But I'll give you an example. There are some, so not through newspapers, but there are some print companies now that their entire job is to target specific communities.
Yes.
Okay, now, depending on what type of business you are, let's say that you are a Botox place, right? A medical spa that does Botox. And you have a very particular group of people that you want to get in front of. And let's say that this group of people is going to be people that have a lot of disposable income and they're a little older. And so retirement communities may be a great spot for you, right? There are companies out there who actually create these monthly guides or monthly newsletters, very nice and polished, that they send out to those communities. And so you have an opportunity to advertise in them. Now, setting up the mechanism can either look like you're going to set up a particular sale that is just tied to this magazine, right? Or this newsletter, so that, you know, anytime somebody calls in to, to do the buy one, get one free or the 20% off, that it's tied just to this particular ad. That's one way to track it. Or you could use QR codes and develop particular landing pages that then you could pull the data on the back end to see how many people landed on that page, right? Or you could set up a vanity number. So you can actually do, and Google will do this now too, you can get a free phone number that's separate from your actual business line, that if someone wants to schedule an appointment, they call that number and it's separate, still feeds into your business. And then you're able to pull how many people called that line. So there are ways that you could do it. You have to get a little creative, but tracking the ROI, I think, is just as important as the other two that you stated, which is just, being decisive and aware, and then being diverse in your strategy. Yeah, our big takeaway for this episode is just traditional advertising is not dead. It has transformed.
Yes.
And so if you have opportunities that arise to advertise in channels that you think are traditional and may not be relevant anymore, i.e. newspaper advertising, i.e. television advertising, i.e. postcards, give it a shot and just look at the data.
Yeah.
Look at their offerings, look at the price points, and look at whether you feel like it would be a good fit for your business. But do not just throw that opportunity away because you think it's no longer relevant.
And if you do end up doing this, and we just really would like to hear your experience. Did traditional marketing end up working for you? Did it not work? Just let us know. You can DM us on our social media, The Seasoned Marketer, or just leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, and I'll take it one step further. If any of y'all are going to go out there and you're going to be like, okay, you know what, y'all convinced me just to at least hear somebody out about newspaper advertising or television advertising, whatever it is, ping us, send us an email, Vivian at The Seasoned Marketer or Chelsea at The Seasoned Marketer, and ask us for tips. So we can give you guys tips on what to ask for that could be current. And so at least then you'll know that, hey, they're putting in front of me some of the opportunities that I know are out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I think that's the podcast today.
Great. You guys go out there and check out what advertising you want to do, okay?
And be the best S.O.B you can be.
You can be.